Hello and welcome to another episode of The Highlight Reel. As always, my name is Nick Lynch.
And I'm Ben Heltzer.
And today we will be covering Week 4 of the NFL, including the early MVP race, a recap on the first month of the season, our power rankings for Week 5, and as always, our game of the week. So without further ado, let's get into it. So Ben, the early MVP race, we do have some candidates. We have Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow for our early MVP race. But who do you think deserves it the most so far this year?
Right now, I can't believe I'm even saying this, but I got to go with Baker Mayfield. He's been playing lights out through the first 4 weeks of the season. And you do have guys like Josh Allen and Joe Burrow who we knew were probably going to be in there. Mm-hmm. But then you have Sam Darnold, who's also been playing out of his mind. And those two guys have really shocked me this season. And if they keep playing the way they're playing, I wouldn't be surprised if either one of them wins it.
Yeah, if you told me 3 years ago that Baker Mayfield would be up for the MVP race, I would not believe you.
I know. Sam Darnold, too.
Yeah, Sam Darnold,
the season's crazy so far.
Yeah. So the division leaders throughout the first quarter of the season. So in the NFC East, the Washington Commanders lead it since the beginning of time, it feels like. In the NFC North, the Minnesota Vikings, the 4-0 Minnesota Vikings. The NFC South, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are 3-1. With that Saints loss, they jump up into the solo first place. And then in the West, the Seattle Seahawks, who are also 3-1 with that loss on Monday night against Detroit. And then to the AFC, your 3-1 Buffalo Bills, which tough loss, by the way, on Sunday.
That's what it is.
And then in the AFC North, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Houston Texans down south, and then the other undefeated team in the West, the Kansas City Chiefs. With the undefeated teams, the Chiefs, I think everyone saw coming that they were going to be undefeated. But the Vikings undefeated, who thought at the beginning of the season that the Vikings were going to be undefeated in September?
I know, it's crazy. The NFC in general has just been so crazy this year, and I guess it's because teams like the Niners and the Rams are hurt, and the Cowboys are underperforming, the Eagles are underperforming. But, if you told me at the beginning of the season that 4 weeks in, the division leaders would be the Commanders, led by Jaden Daniels, the 4-0 Vikings, led by Sam Darnold, the Buccaneers, led by Baker Mayfield, and the Seattle Seahawks, led by Geno Smith, I would have called you crazy.
Yeah.
The NFC is wild this year, and I love it.
Yeah, I think the NFC has been better than it ever was this year. You got some competitors like Tampa Bay, Minnesota, Washington too, etc. But so we move on to our Week 5 power ranking. So at number 5, we decided to go with the Detroit Lions, who are 3-1, currently in second in the NFC North. Number 4, we have the Buffalo Bills, who are also 3-1. The Baltimore Ravens, who are 2-2 at number 3, but with Derrick Henry, their offense is just unbelievable. Number 2, the undefeated Minnesota Vikings, and then the Kansas City Chiefs we have at number 1. But yeah, it seems like the Ravens, I think, have deserved to jump back up to the top 5, considering their previous scores the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I agree. Even though the record doesn't show it, they've rattled off some impressive victories, including against the Bills. So I feel like, in my eyes, because of what happened, they have to be at least above them. Mm-hmm. And then the Chiefs and the Vikings undefeated, so they're 1-2. And then the Lions sneaking into 5. We debated having the Bucs there, but I think the Lions, they balled out against Seattle. The offense looked great. Jared Goff caught a touchdown, and I think if they had a rematch with Tampa, I think they'd win. So that's why we put them at 5.
Yeah, I think Tampa would be number 6, if anything.
Definitely.
If we were to go on to the top 10. But, all right, it's time for our game of the week. So for my pick, I'm going to go with the Saints and the Falcons. That game was entertaining from start to finish. The Atlanta Falcons for Younghoe Koo with the game-winning field goal to put the Falcons ahead. And, yeah, it was just a great game overall.
Yeah, a great game. And for my game, I'm also going to go with the divisional game. I'm going to go with the Vikings-Packers game. The Vikings, jumped on them early, but the Packers were able to storm back. The Vikings still ended up winning, but it was close at the end there. Packers, put up a fight.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think that was a great game to watch.
Yeah, I agree. At halftime, it looked like the game was over. Everyone at Lambeau was ready to go home, and the Vikings were ready to go back to Minnesota. But then the Packers, they started to climb back, but they fell short, unfortunately. So
yeah, those divisional games were great this week.
Yeah,
Jags-Texans was another good one.
Yeah, what a game, though. Well, that's it for us on the NFL, but up next is Smitty and Jake to talk about college football.
Hello and welcome to College Football on the Highlight Reel. We have a few really good games to cover this weekend, so let's get right to it. Starting with Alabama versus Georgia, of course, the big SEC matchup, most likely game of the year.
As we know, Bama, they started the first quarter, dominated. So let's get right into it. First drive, Jalen Milroe pushes it down the field. He rushed for a touchdown. Just a great play. And then Bama got the ball right back. Great defense. And then Milroe made a pass to Jam Miller to make a 16-yard touchdown. Just two good plays by Jalen Milroe. Good start for Alabama. And then Carson Beck got the ball, and then bad pass turned over. And then Bama had good field position to get it to Bernard, who ran for a 7-yard touchdown. Huge start for Bama. What do you think on the first quarter?
I mean, really just a huge start that I don't think many people expected. I mean, obviously everyone knows Bama's a great team, but, I mean, 21-0, then 28-0, I don't think
anybody knew that they were going to come out this hot. Everybody thought it would be a close game, just going back and forth.
And then second quarter, not much changed. They got the ball back within their own territory. And then, I don't know if you saw that play, a huge block from Jam Miller knocked the Georgia player's helmet off. And that was a crucial block. Milroe tight-roped all the way to the end zone, 36 yards. So 28-0 after that. And then Carson Beck and UGA's offense, really, they just weren't able to move the ball at all. I mean, Carson Beck was just completely off. And then finally, near the end of the quarter, they got it moving. Trevor Etienne ran in, made it 28-7, a little bit more doable. But, yeah, really not a great start for Georgia, not ideal.
No, definitely not ideal. Definitely a bad start for Georgia and Carson Beck, who supposedly is supposed to be one of the best quarterbacks in college football.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about the safety real quick. Another disastrous play, which put Georgia in a deeper hole than they even were. What do you think happened there?
I mean, I think Carson Beck just kind of panicked again there. He definitely seemed more calm in the second half, but he saw two guys coming at him, just chuck the ball down the field and put them in an even deeper hole, 30-7 going to halftime. So really, this Georgia offense just looked, out of shapes in all way.
They did not look like a top 5 team in the country.
Yeah, not at all.
They looked like not even a ranked team in the country. They looked like they were a JUCO team.
I mean, not that bad,
but you know what I
mean.
Bama
was toying with them.
Bama was tearing.
I mean, they were
them
playing
up.
trick plays.
Yep.
It was getting bad. Moving on to the second half, though, we do know they were able to start making their comeback. They made their way back in the game slowly and steadily. Bama's offense slowed down after that huge first half. 21-0 first quarter. Most likely he's going to slow down after that. And they didn't really get into the end zone again until late in the fourth.
Yeah, I'm guessing that Kirby Smart, he talked the guys up in the he probably yelled at them.
I can only imagine what he said.
I don't even know what he would have said. But Carson Beck, he definitely talked to Carson Beck. Carson Beck came out. His accuracy was much better than he had in the first quarter. He threw a ton. He was 27 for 50 on the game, which is awful. But Georgia's offense started moving really well in the second half. A touchdown by Aaron Smith made it 30-15.
Yeah, 30-15, and they were able to start it moving, and I think a lot of fans didn't really think much of it. Still a 2-score game, but they crept up, and Bama wasn't really aware of this, I feel like. And we'll just talk about Ryan Williams' catch after that, right after that touchdown from Georgia. They were able to get it moving a little, and a nice throw by Milroe, but more importantly, a huge effort by Williams to make that acrobatic catch. What a performance by him.
What a performance.
6 receptions, 177 yards, that late touchdown. So, I mean, that only got them in range for a field goal, but 18-point game, huge game for Ryan Williams, 17-year-old.
Ryan Williams, the 17-year-old who's supposedly supposed to be in high school still, graduated earlier.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The kid is literally...
It's only 9 months. 10 months older than me.
4 months older than me, and playing in college already is insane. Now going in the fourth quarter, where Georgia's really starting to make their comeback. A bunch of quick stops on defense for them led to production for Carson Beck and the Georgia Bulldogs. With 5 minutes left, Dylan Bell ran for Georgia's second touchdown of the game,
Yeah, a little motion play.
making it 33-28 Georgia. Just what a momentum shift.
Yeah, mood really started to shift here.
The Georgia fans were out of it. They didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, and then I think it really shifted after they got the ball back again. And then first few plays, Carson Beck finds Dylan Bell once again on the deep ball, and Georgia's leading the game now. That's just a huge momentum shift.
Yep.
If you saw the game, you see the whole crowd. All the fans, those girls in the camera. That was funny. But just a huge turn of events.
Yeah, and then moving further into it, Ryan Williams again with 2 minutes left on the first play of the drive.
Came up huge.
Another acrobatic catch. He turned around as the ball was about to get to him. Just another great play by the freshman. That sealed the deal there. Seeing the Georgia players celebrate after their touchdown, think they're gonna win, just to see the freshman come up big.
Yeah, the Georgia players were talking to the fans, and then literally first play of the drive, Ryan Williams.
Yeah, 15 seconds after Georgia
able to
scored.
just get up and make a play on the ball.
Yep.
And then that spin move after too.
Yeah,
just dirty.
And way to just fake going one way and then go right back the other way, and the
Nasty spin move.
stay in bounds too with the guys trailing him right on his feet. Then Carson Beck
out the game.
Carson Beck finished with 439 passing yards, but he threw 3 interceptions, which not ideal.
Yeah.
Milroe had 374 passing yards, and his accuracy was much better than Carson Beck with 27-33. He also had a huge 117 rushing yards and 2 rushing TDs. This is Lamar type, level
huge,
type stuff.
Huge performance. That's definitely moved him up in the Heisman rankings.
Yep. And Bama moves up to number 1. Just nobody ever thought Bama would come out this quick, come out this fast, but just also a good comeback by Georgia.
Yeah, great comeback to make the game, just iconic. Georgia's versus Bama, definitely a great game. Let's move on to the Ole Miss versus Kentucky game now. Huge upset for Kentucky on the road in the SEC matchup. It was a quick start for Ole Miss, only 2 minutes in, and scored a touchdown. Not much from their offense at all after that, though. Kentucky got in range for a field goal in the first, and in the second, Brock Vandegrift hit Dane Key to make it 10-7.
Yep. Moving right into the third quarter, Ole Miss kind of got the ball moving again, scored 10 points, 6 of those points being a big shot from Jackson Dart, who's also an honorable mention in the Heisman race. And Trey Davis for 48 yards. Then moving into the fourth quarter, Kentucky struck late to Josh Caddis, got into the end zone, making it 2017 with just 2 minutes left.
Yeah, just 2 minutes left. Trey Harris definitely his first option, a big game for him, 170 yards. But Kentucky really just took this one in a thriller. The Ole Miss kicker missed the field goal to try and tie the game up, send it to overtime.
I feel bad for the kicker though. He's a true freshman, and he hasn't really done a lot of kicks in a high game because the starting kicker is hurt. So I feel bad for him.
Definitely can't blame him for that one. But Ole Miss loses that one. It'll definitely be interesting to see how they play in their upcoming matchups because now they play South Carolina this week, and they blew out Kentucky 31-6. So definitely going to be interesting how they're going to be able to perform against better SEC teams on the road.
Moving on to that, or moving off of that, last game of the day was Oklahoma versus Auburn. This was an interesting one. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, Jackson Arnold was benched for Michael Hawkins in this game. And Auburn was up almost the whole game, just pretty much sold in the fourth quarter. Peyton Thorne, pretty good game, 338 passing yards, but a costly mistake late.
Yep. Auburn was looking pretty good. They had most of control of the whole game until the fourth quarter, where they just weren't able to close it out. Peyton Thorne threw it for a touchdown 1 minute into the fourth, making it 21-10.
Let's just talk about Auburn not being able to close the game out. First of all, allow a touchdown, making it 21-16. That's fine, but Peyton Thorne's really only crucial mistake in this game was throwing the pick six for Auburn, which turned into 6 for Oklahoma. And that was really his crucial mistake, which just put them behind.
Yep.
But an acrobatic flip into the end zone for Michael Hawkins, 2-point conversion. And other than that, though, Auburn was not able to score again, leaving what could have been a solid win at home in an SEC matchup. But real quick, Smitty, before we end this one off, I want to bring up the Heisman race for this one so far. There's a few guys in mind who I think really deserve it. But first, I just want to hear, who do you think is leading the Heisman race?
Like I said earlier on the show, I think Jackson Dart is an honorable mention. He's not in the top 4, but he's definitely an honorable mention.
I think he's like maybe 6 or 7.
Yeah. Definitely Jalen Milroe. We said that earlier.
Yeah, for sure.
Travis Hunter, Cam Ward, Miami quarterback, and then also Genty from.
Oh yeah, Ashton Genty, 4 games over 100 or 800 rushing yards.
And
I mean, if he keeps that up,
over like 17 carries too. That's
crazy. If he keeps that up, I mean, that's on pace for like 2,400 yards. But other than that, I mean, I think Jalen Milroe is clear first.
Yep.
But
I think it goes Milroe, then Genting, then I think it's Travis Hunter, and then Cam Ward.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to do it for us this week on college football. See you next week on the highlight reel. Coming up next is Andrew talking about soccer.
Hello, I am Andrew Mirzaaghasi, and I will be talking about soccer once again. Going straight into the Premier League, we have Chelsea versus Brighton. It is a Chelsea victory, 4-2. Cole Palmer immediately was on fire this game. He scored all 4 goals for Chelsea. It was incredible. It was such an incredible game with both sides getting a goal, especially during the first half. Cole Palmer scored all the goals for Chelsea, in which he broke a record for scoring the most goals in the first half. And it shows that Chelsea is still going strong with the team they have right now. And I have very high hopes for him, hopefully, if they'll make it and stay on the top 5 of the Premier League. Meanwhile, for Man City, they got into another tie with Newcastle 1-1. I'm disappointed with this for one reason, and that one reason is the reason that Newcastle got their one and only goal this game. It was because of a penalty that we could have prevented. But instead, we decided to give the penalties, and because of that, it ended up being a tie. This is twice in a row, can you believe it? We tied with Arsenal, now we tied with Newcastle, and this is not good, especially when it comes to the ranking. And I know this is very early into the Premier League, but this is really not good for Man City, and it shows a little crack in their team. However, I will have to say this. I will have to give props to Newcastle's goalie, Nick Pope, as he was able to really block all of the balls during the time Man City was trying to score. There were a lot of possibilities for goal for Man City, but Nick Pope was able to get the job done and help Newcastle out to make it a tie. For this segment, or this session, I would like to implement another tradition when it comes to soccer on top of the line, and that is that we're going to bash Man United for being a bad team. And with their match with Tottenham, it comes and proves, as they lost to Tottenham 0-3, which is embarrassing, like a whole lot embarrassing. Like 0-3, they didn't even, they tried to attempt, but they had the laziest attempts of trying to score a goal that it was easily blockable. And it's embarrassing too, because the only time that 3 goals would be scored was in 2022, where Man United would win against Tottenham 3-2, and that was because of Ronaldo and other teammates as well. And many people have been clowning on Man United, as I'm also going to do that right now, because it is embarrassing that you guys lose to Tottenham out of all the teams. And maybe Man United will go down the gutter. So we have our standings for the Premier League. In first place, we have Liverpool with 15 points. In second, Man City with 14 points. Third is Arsenal with 14 points. Fourth is Chelsea with 13 points. And fifth is Aston Villa with 13. Now, Man City has lost their first place spot, which is bad, but this hasn't happened before, as they have basically gone to second place to Liverpool, only for Liverpool to lose a game in which Man City comes back to being first. So I'm not really going to be that disappointed. Plus, it's too early to tell at this point. Well, that's it for soccer.
Welcome back to the highlight reel. It was a big weekend in sports this weekend. As the MLB regular season's wrapped up, today we'll be talking about the upcoming MLB wildcard games.
Okay, first we're going to be starting the AL with the Tigers and Astros. Tigers might be the hottest team in baseball, have the best pitcher in baseball in Tarik Skubal, and it's going to be a great series because the Astros just win every year in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens. I see a great series. Starting off with a great game one with two left-handers. You're two of the best in baseball with Tarek Skubal and Framber Valdez.
Yeah, this is really just a series of contrasts here. I mean, the Tigers have no playoff experience on the roster. They have nothing. But the Astros, they've won World Series, maybe cheated, but won World Series nonetheless. And it's just going to be a really interesting series. I personally have the Tigers winning. I don't think the Astros have what it takes this year. But I'm looking at Riley Green, and I'm looking at Spencer Torkelson and Colt Keith, and I'm seeing if, this is their first playoffs, obviously. It's a whole different game. But I'm looking at them and seeing if they can step it up. They might, but right now I'm going with Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, they just, middle of the year, they stepped up their game and all started playing better. They got really hot. Now they come to the Astros. As a Yankee fan, I really like them to beat Houston. It would just much better for us. Even if we don't win the whole thing, as long as Houston's out, I mean, that's nice, as long as we get rid of Houston.
Yeah. So moving on to the Royals-Orioles series. The Royals, I think the Royals will win, but tonight, Game 1, Cole Reagans versus Corbin Burns. It's going to be an ace matchup. And again, the Royals, another team with not a lot of playoff experience. You look at Bobby Witt, you look at Vinny Pasquantino, not a lot of experience there. The Orioles also not a lot of playoff experience.
Yeah, I mean, they only had their 2 games last year when they were the best team in baseball. They got eliminated, or one of the best. They won the division, got eliminated.
Yeah.
But 2 great young shortstops with Gunnar Henderson and Bobby Witt Jr. I mean, those are 2 of the best in the game going into a series like that.
Mm-hmm. So the one concern I have is obviously the Orioles bullpen. I mean, losing Batista last year, really just they couldn't fill a closer role with Kimbrel. Obviously, I know how Kimbrel is, but just going off of that, I think the Orioles will win. I think they'll out-talent them. So
Yeah, I mean, as the winner of this series most likely plays the Yankees, I'd rather it be the Royals.
Yeah, so moving on to the NL, we have to start with yesterday. The Mets-Braves game, especially Game 1, was absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's one of the best baseball games I've ever watched without, a real rooting interest in the game as a Yankee fan. Rooting against the Mets, but, the Yankees aren't in the game. And that was just a great baseball game overall.
Yeah, the twists and turns throughout that were honestly incredible. I mean, you couldn't have scripted it any better. But tonight, Mets-Brewers, we have Luis Severino versus Freddie Peralta. The Mets obviously are an incredibly hot and confident team right now. The Brewers, they kind of fall flat every year. They always lean on their pitching. But Willie Adames, he's so underrated. He's like the Derek White of the NBA. I mean, Derek White's like the best player in the NBA. But
Yeah.
Willie Adames, he's so underrated. And
William Contreras, their catcher, he's been great. Great young catcher, came over from the Braves, and he's been great for them so far. So
Yeah.
they need to rely on those guys, catcher and shortstop, 2 of the most important positions, to really jumpstart their lineup and get everyone else hitting.
it's all about the bats for the Brewers. If their bats can show up, I know their pitching is. I know Devin Williams is going to close it down, but it's all about their bats.
Yep. Now moving on to the Braves vs. Padres game. Another former Yankee starter pitching for the Padres and Michael King. Obviously traded him for Juan Soto. He's had a great year, and we'll see if he can continue that into the playoffs. Braves are run down. I mean, so many injuries. So many things have just gone wrong for them this season. Scratching into the playoffs yesterday on winning the second game of a doubleheader when the Mets basically weren't trying anymore. Their rotation's a mess. They haven't announced a pitcher for tonight yet. And, yeah, I mean, Sale, their best pitchers, got hurt, so there's just not much left for them. I don't see how they compete with the Padres, who I think are one of the best teams in baseball in this series.
Yeah, the Braves seem about emotionally defeated as a Tom Brady football. I mean, they are deflated. It's really bad for them right now. Obviously, they have playoff experience with, Marcell Ozuna, Michael Harris, Matt Olson, Ozzie Albies. But I just think the Padres take this one. Padres have much more talent on both sides of the diamond. Obviously, Manny Machado, he's great. Michael King, and then Robert Suarez. He had a great postseason last year coming in relief, and I'm looking to see if he can close it down this year.
Yeah.
So that's all we have for this week on the highlight reel. We will see you next week.